All right. We're about to record a podcast here, and Marques Brownlee is with me. How's it going, man?
Pretty good.
I'm happy to join you. I'm a big fan of what you can do over there on your channel, MKBHD.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've been practicing not saying it in the wrong order.
Yeah, it's surprising how many different versions of that
I'm
I've heard
sure.
over the years.
All right, well, let's get this going. Make sure I'm recording.
Australians, have you ever wondered what a nickel is? Apparently it's 5 cents. So give it to Tom at patreon.com/acedetect.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, July 21st, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Marques Brownlee of MKBHD, very popular channel on YouTube, and frankly, in my opinion, the best tech channel on YouTube. How's it going, Marques?
Thank you. It's great. It's a nice, beautiful day outside, so I'm happy that it's not pouring rain again like it usually is here, so I'm happy.
That's good. Yeah, we were enjoying the sounds of an ice cream truck going by earlier. I'm not just being poetic, literally.
Yeah.
Kids are buying ice cream. It's a beautiful summer day. And shall we do a little tech news?
Shall we? We should.
ZDNet reports Jonathan Jartsky gave a talk at the Hope X conference Friday called Identifying Backdoors, Attack Points, and Surveillance Mechanisms in iOS Devices. And he did what it said in the title. He identified those things. In fact, he identified undocumented services that access user data with no reasonable explanation. He said, quote, "Your device is almost always at risk of spilling all data since it's almost always authenticated even while locked." Even so, he wrote on his blog in all caps, "Don't panic," noting that these are not zero-day vulnerabilities. They're not security vulnerabilities. Only Apple has access to them. What they do with them is the question, and he wants Apple to explain that, disclose these services, and correct the problem. He wrote on his blog, "I want these services off my phone. They don't belong there." Marques and I are going to talk about this a little more, how we feel about it as iPhone users in just a bit. TechCrunch reports Facebook launched a Read It Later feature for its website on iOS and Android apps as well, called Save. It lets you save links from newsfeed and certain Facebook pages to a list where you can view them later. In the news feed, the Save button is in the drop-down menu, accessed from the arrow in the top right of each story. On Pages, it's going to be right next to the like button, so a lot easier to find. You can access your saved list in the web homepage's left sidebar list of bookmarks and the More Apps list on mobile. It seems like Facebook's shifting from being a sharing platform primarily to being more of a consumer platform of like read things and save them later.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about this just because it reminded me of the favorite button on Twitter and whether or not, because there's a bunch of different groups of people who use Twitter and the way they use it changes. So there's the people who tweet a lot, who share a lot of stuff, who might use the favorite button to acknowledge someone's tweet without actually typing out a reply to it. And then there's people like my dad who, follow tons of people and never tweet, but use the favorite button as like a bookmark to to actually say something for later. So Facebook hasn't really had a way to return to things you visited in your feed before until this button. So that kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I remember I used to never use the favorite button because I was like, why would I want to favorite someone saying like, hey, I had a ham sandwich? Back when that was sort of the default Twitter. I use it all the time now, and I use it, like you said, sort of as a, hey, I want to let this person know, give them a little perk that they had a poignant comment or something really cool there. I wonder if this will evolve that way for Facebook.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could start off like right now I said there's no version of that for Facebook. Like before, I was using the favorite button on Twitter, like literally just for favorites, like to know when I want to come back to something or remember something. But then I stopped because I needed a way to do that sort of acknowledgement thing. But there's nothing on Facebook that does that now, so I figure it'll immediately be used that way for people to.
Although I guess you have the
story.
like button for saying I like something, and that gives people the perk sort of thing. But it is more substantial. It's like a sincere compliment when you save it for later.
There's no way to go back to all the things you just liked in the past week on Facebook. So it's at least like an archive of stuff.
Yeah. It's very much after Pocket. It's a
Right.
read it later sort of thing. Ars Technica reports Verizon is getting symmetrical, increasing upload speeds on its Fios service in the U.S. to match download speeds with no increase in charges. They're not going to charge you extra. You're just going to get it. New customers will get it right away if they sign up. And increases will roll out to existing customers throughout the autumn. Although if you want to get it first as an existing Verizon customer, you should sign up for their new rewards program that sort of tracks you, because then you get priority access to the new upload speeds. I think this is really significant in that it's Verizon recognizing, wait a minute, our customers are starting to send traffic, which could change the debate about all of these peering disputes we hear about with Level 3 and Netflix, etc.
Yeah, and this is also strikingly important to me as a YouTuber specifically, just because uploading videos is such a chore when you put a 3 or 4 gig file on YouTube. So that's great news. If I was a Fios customer, I'd be super happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I am a Fios customer, and
Yeah.
streaming, not even just uploading, but streaming too, it's extremely helpful with. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm not sure if I'm signing up for the rewards program though.
Not convinced.
I'll wait and see. I'll look at that a little more. The next web passes along a report from the China Internet Network Information Center showing Chinese users accessing the internet by mobile grew 83.4% as of June 2014, passing the percentage of users who access the internet by PCs, which was 80.9%. For the first time, mobile is bigger than PC in China. Overall number of internet users in China is growing, although not as fast as before. 46.9% of China uses the internet. That's only up 1.1% from the end of 2013. Shopping and messaging are two of the most popular activities among Chinese internet users.
That would make sense that mobile is growing so much because everyone's messaging on mobile.
Yeah.
So that ties, I guess, hand in hand with the fact that it's growing so much. But interesting to hear. I mean, the numbers always go up in terms of how many people are using mobile versus desktop. If you've watched like YouTube analytics, if you dig into like the percentages of people who watch your videos on certain platforms, again, you get that breakdown, and you can see the percentage of people who watch your videos on mobile versus the percentage of people who watch your videos on desktop. And then there's other things like TVs and consoles and stuff. But that mobile percentage keeps going up. Like every year it gets bigger.
Yeah. And watching videos, mobile payments, there's all kinds of things that people are using. When they say shopping, that includes mobile payments, going out and not just buying things in a store online, but being able to do payments. A lot of people do payments in their messaging apps in China, and things like WeChat. Engadget reports the Sainsbury's supermarket chain in the UK is powering its store in Cannock, West Midlands entirely with biomethane gas generated from waste foods. Sainsbury's gives any food from its stores that can't be used by charities or fed to animals to waste specialist Biffa, which uses microbes to turn it into gas. The program generates enough energy to power 2,500 homes and will allow Sainsbury's store to come completely off the grid for its day-to-day energy consumption. I was actually thinking about this in the grocery store the other day. Like, where does all this food go once it expires? And I guess charities, animals, and then in Sainsbury's case, power.
Powers the city. That's awesome.
Yeah. TechCrunch reports Netflix announced Q2 earnings of revenue of $1.34 billion and earnings per share of $1.15. Analysts had expected Netflix to report $1.33 billion, so they beat that expectation, although earnings per share was off. They had expected $1.16, so off by a penny, not bad. Netflix saw its total subscriber base grow by 1.69 million to 50.05 million. Its domestic subscribers grew 570,000. That domestic U.S. number is now 36.24 million. Its international subscriber base grew 1.12 million, up to 13.8 million subscribers, which was better than predicted in both cases.
Yeah, Netflix is killing it. It's one of those services I still haven't signed up for yet. I don't even have a Netflix account.
I think you're the first person I've met in a while who does in the technology world anyway, who's been holding out. Now, do you watch like Hulu or any of the other services?
I don't. I literally watch mostly YouTube, and then the occasional like someone will link to something else elsewhere, and I might watch it. I don't have a Hulu account. I don't have a Netflix account. So if I watch something on Hulu, it's something that I didn't need an account to watch.
Sure.
So yeah, just don't necessarily watch that many movies or TV shows.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's kind of, there's the wave of people not having cable, and then you're kind of that second wave behind there of like, I don't know if I really.
Yeah. Well, I never really watched that much TV, so people always say, I'm cord cutting. I'm gonna stop paying the TV bill and I'm gonna move to these services. But I never was watching that much TV in the first place. So the whole, switching from TV to online TV never really happened. So I just never really watched any of it.
Yeah, cord never. Yeah.
Yes.
Facebook's $2 billion acquisition of virtual reality startup Oculus is official, final. They own them. Facebook announced the purchase for $1.6 billion in stock and $400 million in cash in March. In a statement today, the two companies said, guess what? They're looking forward to an exciting future together, building the next computing platform and reimagining the way people communicate.
Still a question mark of what exactly that means.
Yes.
And I've been thinking about this ever since they announced that, but as far as we know, that whole this is going to be an exciting new thing is just that. That's all we know. So I'm curious, but I have no idea what they're doing.
I hope they keep their hands off it for the most part. You know, and they've said that they want Oculus to be a good and great thing like it was. They don't. And Facebook has changed recently to be diversifying rather than integrating. They don't. Not every company they buy do they try to force into Facebook, and I don't think they're going to do that with this. Time for some news from you. These are things submitted on our subreddit at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. If you haven't joined the 2,800 or so people in there, you might find it fun. There's lots of stuff. There's interesting stuff. There's new ways of submitting stories. For instance, Alan A.V. posted a link to Comcast's page on opensecrets.org, which details how much money Comcast has had donated to it by U.S. politicians in the first half of 2014 based on public records. And Alan pointed out the number is $2 million across both parties. Or all parties, but they're mostly Democrat and Republican. In a comment on his post, Alan A.V. wrote, as anyone can see, both parties are in bed with Comcast, so no matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat, in Alan A.V.'s opinion, we should stand together and defend our internet. And I'm glad he posted this because a few people had started to feel like, oh, well, if you talk about Comcast donating to this politician, it makes it sound like they're only in bed with one party. But money is the influencer in all of these debates.
And all around. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a fan of Comcast, so every time I share anything about Comcast, it's just about how they are the worst, and they do all these things that make everyone all antsy and disappointed in them. But yeah, this is just more news to me that I'm frankly not surprised by, but it's unfortunate.
I don't think you're alone in that either.
Yeah.
Metal Freak submitted an InternetNews.com story that ICANN has suspended Domain Registry of America, a.k.a. Brandon Gray Internet Services, a.k.a. Name Juice. One of those may be familiar to you. The registrar is now forbidden from registering any new domain names or accepting any inbound transfers until October 17th, 2014, while an investigation happens. ICANN accuses Brandon Gray's resellers of subjecting registered name holders to false advertising, deceptive practices, or deceptive notices. ICANN would also like an explanation of how the company was able to mine Whois records to send unsolicited marketing messages to domain name holders. I've received these letters. Have you, Marques?
Nope. Or if I have, I just ignore them somehow.
You probably just threw them away because they're very obviously spam, and they come in the mail, and you're like, no domain registrar is going to send me a letter.
Right.
So forget it, and you toss them. But I think some people are cheering about this on the internet. Captain Kipper pointed out the Register article about a study in the Journal of Transportation Research Part A, Policy and Practice, that's the name of the journal, that found California's 2008 law banning handheld use of cell phones while driving had no effect on the rate of accidents. The study accounted for seasonal driving differences. They accounted for weather, gas prices, several other factors. They were trying to really tease out just the effect of the ban. And the authors believe that even a small amount of people changing their behavior as a result of the law should have caused a change. They don't think it's likely that nobody changed their behavior as a result of the law. I guess that's a possible explanation. More likely explanations could be that hands-free cell phone use is just as dangerous, and as drivers switched to that, it didn't change the accident level. Or drivers switched to equally dangerous behaviors, started taking the time they would have spent on the phone playing with their satellite radio or something, or possibly that it's just not as dangerous as people thought.
Yeah, this reminds me of another video I saw where someone else was describing over in Europe some policy changes, and it had more to do with, I want to say, just the construction or the speed limits. It was the speed limits and how raising versus lowering the speed limits had an effect on the safety of the roads. And it turned out that lowering the speed limits made the roads more dangerous, and upping the speed limits was actually safer, as driving the actual speed limit tends to impede traffic. And there was a whole debate similar to this one on whether or not it actually has an effect, which was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think I saw that story too, and it makes sense to me that the speed limit needs to be set at the place that people feel comfortable driving, and then when everybody's driving the same speed, you're going to have safer traffic conditions. My guess on this is that hand-free use of the cell phone is just as dangerous, if it's dangerous. But that holding it in your hand was never the problem. It's the attention being distracted by the conversation on the phone.
Right. That sounds about right. I mean, I can't think of any other. I mean, there's obviously other distracting things to do in the car. If you decided, oh, okay, I'm not going to take this phone call because it's banned. Now I'm going to do something else.
I'm going to text message.
And yeah, just
well, I guess that would fall
distracted. Yeah.
Hermith posted the Verge story that the city of Seoul, South Korea plans to not only ban Uber, but come out with its own GPS-based app by the end of the year for use with existing taxis. Good. I've seen a lot of cities try to ban Uber. This is the first one that I've seen decide that they would replace it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Hermith, for posting that. Subreddit is dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and that is a look at the headlines. Hey, we've been getting some cool photos lately from folks showing off Daily Tech News Show shirts in various locations around the world. Thank you, first of all, for buying the shirt and supporting the show. Producer Jenny has a plan for these pics. So if you have a shirt and you live in a location, send us a pic. And if you don't have a shirt, check out bit.ly/DTNS-shirt. More to follow. All right, let's talk a little bit about Jonathan Jarsky's research that we talked about right at the top of the headlines, Marques. He went to great pains to say in his research, there are things on this phone that only Apple has access to. They are copying data in ways that don't help developers. They're not available in the developer edition. They are not the kinds of things that can be explained in another way. They can be accessed even if your lock screen is on. The only way that they're encrypted is if your phone is off. And he points out Apple's law enforcement policy has a couple outs that say if Apple feels there's an emergency, they can access your data and pass it along to law enforcement. At the same time, he's like, look, don't panic. I don't think there's a big conspiracy theory here. I just want Apple to explain why these are here. It's obviously designed this way. What was your reaction to this?
So what it sounds like is it's kind of a trust issue, whether Apple is actually keeping this information to themselves and not sharing it with anyone, even if it's not an emergency, just not sharing the information, and if people can trust that, and also a transparency issue, or if they're sharing everything about what they're doing with this information to people. So as far as I'm hearing, as far as I can tell, it sounds like people just don't want to trust Apple. They just want as much transparency as possible, and they want to know exactly what's going on with it. But to be honest, wouldn't really mind too much, as it sounds like they have that information clause in there, or the emergency clause in there, just because they kind of have to have that out if law enforcement comes along and they need that stuff. But other than that, not that surprising.
Now, these are unreferenced services, which is odd. Data is personal. The stuff that is collected cannot be restored, so it's not there for the carriers to help you restore your data. And apparently, according to Jarsky, commercial forensic software manufacturers, including Cellebrite, Access Data, and Elcomsoft, are making use of these services and selling it to law enforcement. So even if you're saying, okay, and I think you very reasonably point out, Apple's law enforcement policy is not that different from a lot of folks, and it's a matter of whether you trust the company or not. There appear to be other people taking advantage of the fact that these services are there.
Yeah, so that's actually the bigger issue then, is if that guy stops honking his horn.
That's Apple out there.
How many people are going to abuse the fact that this information is available to them? And hopefully they don't, and hopefully they stop. But that seems to be a much bigger issue than what Apple's doing with it.
And there's always a tendency, first of all, for journalists, and because the journalists do it because there's people out there who will react to it and send around the links, to overreact and say Apple is spying on you. And I like that Jonathan Jarski is saying, look, this is not what I'm trying to point out. What I'm trying to point out is that Apple has left some open doors. Maybe they have a very good reason internally. Maybe they're actually trying to do the right thing. All I want is for them to A, tell me why it's there, and B, get it off there, or give me a chance to get it off there.
Mm-hmm. Give them the option.
Yeah. Two solutions for the security conscious that were set out in the ZDNet article I looked at were A, to set a complex passcode that helps your encryption, and B, install the Apple Configurator application, which you can get in the Mac App Store, and set enterprise mobile device management restrictions on your device. Then, here's the key, delete all pairing records. If you've paired your phone with anything, because if they have been able to pair with you, and this is one scenario, is you go to the airport, say, and you plug into that USB charger, and that USB charger is tapping into these hidden services and pulling down data from you. You want to delete all pairing records, so even pairing records you can't see are gone.
Okay.
It's one reason why I never charge at those USB things.
I always go straight to the wall.
Yeah. So far, I don't want to say never. So far, I haven't heard about anybody being able to get from the typical electrical socket into my phone. I feel fairly safe about that. Speaking of the iPhone 6, we talked about on the show your scratch test that you did for the iPhone 6 part, or the alleged iPhone 6 part, with the knife and the keys and the bending test. And a couple days ago, you put up a follow-up to that, which I thought was fantastic. Tell us a little bit about what you did and why you went a little farther with the scratch test.
Yeah, so that first video where I did the knife and key scratch test, which is kind of my default, or was my default, got so much attention that a lot of comments showed up basically saying, that's nice, but I want to know more. Like, what will actually destroy it? What will actually break it or damage it, basically? So a little research will show that, yeah, there's this Mohs scale of hardness where from 1 to 10, there's minerals that'll basically rank along the scale, and anything, let's say quartz is a 7, anything above a 7 will cut or scratch quartz, where anything below a 7 cannot scratch quartz. So looking at the scale, my knife and keys are at a 5.8 stainless steel, and Gorilla Glass is already at a 6.8. So it should never actually scratch Gorilla Glass. So essentially we need some harder materials to come in and actually do damage to these. So I took sandpaper, I took some different hardnesses of sandpaper and ran over Gorilla Glass on the iPhone 5S, and then the iPhone 6 front panel, and got some different interesting results. It resisted the scratching a little better than Gorilla Glass, so that led me to believe that it was a much harder material, but at the same time, it did still get scratched, which Sapphire would not have given the materials I scratched it with. So digging into Apple's patents and various things that they've talked about behind the scenes, it's probably a laminate or a composite of some sorts involving Sapphire and some other glass, but it's definitely not just a pure brittle sapphire panel. That wouldn't actually be a great idea in the first place, given how brittle sapphire is. And then at the end of the video, destroyed it with an arrow, which was a whole nother experiment.
Joe Rogan destroyed it.
Yeah, Joe Rogan shot the arrow through it, exactly. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a climactic ending. You've got to see the video. YouTube.com/MKBHD. Go watch it. We'll have a link in the show notes as well. Because you really went at this thing. I mean, you scratched it up. Was that? Yeah. Where did you get? I mean, I'm not going to ask you to disclose where you got the part, but is there more than one part
that you were able to? One.
There's just the one. So it died in the service of science.
Exactly. In the name of science, it's been destroyed. So that's over. But
and whose iPhone 5S got scratched up?
That was my iPhone 5S.
Oh,
so
man.
And there's going to be another follow-up video with some other things that we did probably later, so keep an eye on that. But basically, that phone is no longer quite as pretty as it was when I took it out the box.
I admire your commitment to the research, man.
Thank you.
That would have been hard for me to do, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely cringed while I was doing that.
All right, real quickly before we wrap this show up, when we were talking over email before the show, I asked Marques some of the things he wanted to talk about, and you brought up the Tesla Model 3, which we mentioned last week on the show as well. They expect it to sell in 2017 somewhere around $35,000. So it drops it out of the like crazy sports car range down into the expensive luxury car range, 20% smaller than the Model S. You seem to be pretty into it, though.
I was really into the Model S, and the more I read about this model, important it seems to not just Tesla, but like electric cars in general. Because everything I read from every person who's really into cars, really into the BMW 3 Series and the smaller Mercedes and cars, and just everything that seems to be competitive with that, people are diehard engine fanatics. Like they want their engine cars. So to have something electric in that same price range, that same size, if it's just as exciting to drive as the Model S, if it's just as reliable, just as safe, and if Tesla gets it right, it could be really important. Again, it's hard to compete with the people who love their car so much they won't switch to electric. But the fact that it's supposed to be around $35,000, a little smaller, a little more exciting than maybe a 3 Series, who knows? Just it rose my eyebrow. I'd be really interested to check it out. And I'm also planning doing more stuff with Tesla shortly, so that may also fall into my plans. But it's definitely a curious thing.
I don't know that I could see myself going into debt enough to get one of these when it comes out yet. I mean, when they get down to the Camry level, I'll talk. But I think it was really smart of them to go in at the high end and try to convince the most diehard fans, hey, we can do an electric car, because it becomes easier every time you go down. Now, the folks in the BMW 3 class, the folks in the Mercedes class, are looking at the Tesla as being a really high-end super sports car, right? That's what it means to them now.
Yeah, it has that high-end, the brand image is already a really premium brand thanks to the Model S. So if you're starting from the top and bringing something down into a lower price bracket, you might have faith that it'll bring some traits from that upper bracket. Whereas if, like you said, if they started low and brought something up to the $85,000 range, that might not have the same appeal to someone who's already driving an $80,000 car. So I agree with you. It's really nice that they're coming down and bringing that into a at least more affordable than before price bracket.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If a Prius tried to come into the higher end, which they kind of been trying to do a little bit, it's a harder row because it has that image of being a mid-level car.
Mm.
Let's look at the calendar real quick. Hearthstone expansion going live tomorrow, July 22nd. If you wanted to get into Nax, the first one's free for a month. If you're a Hearthstone player. Also tomorrow, July 22nd, is the start of the RSA conference, Asia Pacific and Japan. That's today for folks in the U.S. The last RSA conference in San Francisco, if you remember, was boycotted by some security professionals after questions around RSA's ties to the U.S. NSA. Also tomorrow in San Francisco, Casual Connect, a gathering for the casual games industry, which I assume you will not need to wear a tie to. And finally, Q2 earnings super group tomorrow. Apple and Microsoft and Verizon and EA. Everybody's going to have their ears on Satya Nadella during his earnings call tomorrow, especially after the layoffs announcement. Our pick of the day comes from James Erickson. If this, then that. IFT is great. He says this is a way to automate social networks and web services to make your life easier. 3 use cases that James uses IFT for: text messaging when it's going to rain tomorrow or when severe storms are coming his way. He lives in Texas, so yeah, tornadoes, thunderstorms, good to get. Repost Instagram pics to Twitter. So instead of having to remember to set that in your Instagram app, you can just have IFT do it for you. Or repost a new blogger entry to Twitter. So as soon as you post, boom, that goes over there. Lots of pre-made recipes to choose from at IFT, from easily tailored for your use, iOS, Android, and just about anything running a web browser. Jenny checked the site out, our producer, and was super intrigued by the recipe entitled Yo IFT Get Me Out of This Meeting, which I am intrigued of as well. Not that I have to sit in meetings, but is it involved in Yo, the Yo app? I don't know.
Probably.
Do you use IFT at all, Marques?
No, I don't. I do everything manually. Old school.
I use other I guess, manually. There's a couple of older services that I've used that are single IFT type things.
Right.
I've used IFT for a few things, though. I actually have it text message my wife's Twitter posts to me because I was having a hard time finding her in my Twitter feeds.
Yeah.
Because I should have just created a separate list or something in TweetDeck. But that way I always know. Like once she updates, I get it sent directly to me. Send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Finally, our email is from Rich in lovely Cleveland. He writes, I have a fundamental issue with Kindle Unlimited as a reader. I think pushing it as the Netflix of books is not the best comparison to make. Amazon has done a really great job on both the hardware and software front to get people over the inherent fetishism in preferring physical books over ebooks overall. The reading experience is excellent, and the sheer convenience of buying and reading a book is compelling. What's his problem with subscription book services then? Well, Netflix has thrived in his mind on what he calls a good enough model. He may not always have what he's looking for, but he'll be able to find something he's willing to spend a couple hours watching, and he doesn't mind that. He doesn't think that applies to books. Amazon has already locked down a lot of big names, but as people are paying for the service and don't find exactly what they're looking for, I don't think they will be so eager to go with a good enough substitute. If you're getting the service as a substitute to paperback summer reading, it might not be as much of an issue. Maybe I'm a little on the picky side, but right now, this doesn't have the same appeal as Netflix. The smart move by Amazon is putting the Kindle Unlimited price of $0 in their search results. I can see a lot of people giving it a month trial because of that. And I am not sure if I'm going to sign up for this or not, but I do read probably, they say you have to read more than a book a month. So like at least 13 books in a year.
Yeah, I can already calculate that. I don't read enough books to get an advantage out of using a subscription service, but I can imagine for people who read a lot more than I do, it would be. So again, yeah, marketing that is really important to them.
Yeah, and I think they're banking on getting a lot of folks who sign up for this and don't. I mean, that's with any subscription service. You're banking that people are going to spend more money than they would otherwise, right? So I think this is a fair thought. You have to remember there's a bigger time investment in reading a book, and so you're not gonna get the same thing as you might out of a Netflix. Well, Marques, this has been a pleasure. It was really nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate you taking a half hour to sit down and chat tech. It was really fun.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and best of luck with the show.
Thank you. YouTube.com/MKBHD. If you're not already subscribed, go get subscribed. You'll find it totally worth it. Marques, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I think you're the best video reviewer on the internet right now.
I sincerely appreciate that. I'm working towards that.
Anything? I know you've got a little more coming up. You teased a little bit with the iPhone 6 screen. Anything else to let folks know about?
I also mentioned Tesla. There's going to be some Tesla stuff coming up on the channel, some more iPhone stuff, and just other general tech stuff. If you find tech interesting, I probably also find it interesting. Might be a video on it soon.
Excellent. Check it out, youtube.com/MKBHD. Also, thanks to the 4,177 patrons who have found some value in the show. Truly appreciate it. It's the value for value model that was coined by Adam Curry. You find some value in the show and you're willing and able to give a little value back. Go to patreon.com/acedetect and join those 4,177 people. If you can't, we totally understand, but we really sincerely appreciate the people that make the show possible. Don't forget you can have a voice in what stories we cover too at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Our phone is 512-59-DAILY, 512-593-2459, and you can listen to the show live at mobile.alphageekradio.com or visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with the New York Times own Molly Wood. See you then.
Visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
And that's it.
Very nice.
Thanks, man.
I dig the outro. That was awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's Scott Johnson's network outro. It's great.
Yeah. Awesome. That was awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me again. Being a part of it was nice.
When can we get you back?
Oh, of course. I mean, my calendar is basically unpredictable until I get back to class, and then it's just like Fridays is usually when I'm free. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Because this was great.
Yeah.
I agree. And essentially, we just hang out and edit the show and chat with the audience. So take off whatever you need to take off.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take off now. I guess we'll be back in touch. Email whenever.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thanks again.
Good to hearing. Bye.
Right, take care, guys.
That was really fun. Bye.
That was awesome.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew he would be too.
Yeah.
I love his videos.
Yep. I just got Matt the most amazing shirt for his birthday, which is upcoming. It involves many characters of The Wire. I'm so excited.
Nice.
Okay, so I just wondered if I just said that to him while he was behind me.
Oh no.
I didn't.
The Blues have signed Nate Prosser to a 1-year, 2-way contract.
I don't even know like what 3 of those things are. Blues.
The St. Louis Blues hockey team.
Yeah, no, out.
So get your Showbot votes in, folks.
Yeah, guys, you got 2 minutes. 2 minutes to Showbot deadline.
Showbot.replex.org.
Let me
If
tell
you're
you something.
watching live, that is.
This is my favorite new thing.
I know, this is so fantastic. Thank you, El Khalif. Again, can't thank you enough. Oh, you know what? High-Tech Ag Pilot, I did see that court ruling, and I had meant to throw that in as a kind of a follow-up, and I just dropped the ball on that. But yeah, they're allowing a search and rescue group out of Texas. Court said, no, FAA can't stop you. You're doing good works. Oversimplifying their ruling, obviously, a lot there.
Wait, I just saw a thing. I can never find anything on Twitter after like 2 seconds. It just keeps flying away.
I'm levelating. Ooh, I love watching Showbot update. It does a little flash every time somebody sends their vote.
Okay, so we're gonna have to have a little therapy about the movie draft.
What? Why? What's the matter?
I'm sad.
Oh no! See now this is the other side, right? I
Yeah.
was the one being all. This is why I'm all pessimistic, because now I'm like, see, this.
I'm so pleased with every single thing that all of our movies did. Like they performed so great, except for Sex Tape tanked.
That was always my fear, is Tammy or Sex Tape. I wasn't sure if both of them would be up to par. Tammy surprised me pleasantly.
Yeah.
It wasn't over the top, but it was good enough. But it needed
keep
Sex Tape to
going.
be perfect too, and it wasn't.
You know, I think the only thing I feel responsible for, like actually responsible for, is claiming that Maleficent was going to tank, and it did $226 million.
No. Don't feel bad, because I agreed with you.
Yeah.
Like I disagreed that it was going to tank.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not going to tank, but it's not going to do very good. Like
Yeah.
I was not against you on that. It was more like, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to suck, and you thought it was going to suck a little more, but we were in agreement. Like I would never have gone after that. That one just totally surprised me. Fault in Our Stars and Maleficent won it for Amtrekker. Essentially.
Yeah. I mean, and I had a feeling about Fault in Our Stars, but also, didn't they have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes?
I thought I was indeterminate. Planet of the Apes was risky to me. Like it could have. I'm not surprised that it did well, but I wasn't certain. I was like that. I'm not. I don't get a good read on that one.
Matt and I were trying to do the math over the weekend to decide whether you could have won the movie draft with 3 movies, which is to say our 2 plus Maleficent.
Like if I'd gotten Maleficent instead of Tammy and Sex
Say we just
Tape.
gotten 3. We were just, or if anybody had. Like I was just trying to do the math to see.
Well, I would have made. I mean, Maleficent made what? 212.
226.
226. That's more than Tammy and Sex Tape. So we would have done better.
Yeah.
I don't know if we would have won.
Yeah. Oh, so Seb Gunn
like
says no.
My problem, and it wasn't your fault or my fault. My problem was that we just didn't get enough
Fifth
movies.
movie,
I'm fine getting Tammy and Sex Tape if we had been able to get one more movie,
an animated movie, even just like another movie.
Yeah.
To just get us to 600 million with ease.
Exactly.
Because it looks like it's actually going to be very close in that, like not in first place, but in second. Yeah. In second. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily think we're going to be in that conversation.
Oh, I think we could get second, possibly.
You think so? I don't know.
I think we could.
I fear Get On Up. I don't fear. I think we can keep pace with Planes, but I fear Get On Up.
I feel fairly good about Get On Up because their trailer has nothing from the movie in it.
It's all like people talking about the movie.
Yeah, so I have a feeling like people are not going to flock to it right out of the gate, even though they should, because James Brown story is awesome, and I want to see a good James Brown story. But even after I want to see a good James Brown story, and after that trailer, I was like, there's a lot of interviews with people.
Yeah.
All right, we need a title. Don't make me do I Spy. I like Trust Us, We're Apple, because I don't have to do inline CSS.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Also, a more legitimate response.
It's not necessarily for spying.
We just did IBM, so.
Also, I love that Never Chord became a thing. Did you see that? You were. I don't. You were probably not.
No,
I
missed that. Was that a chat room Insta meme?
We're saying chord never is kind of a tough word in terms of like flow for someone who's never even had a chord to cut. But Never Chord is like very Neil Gaiman, very Arrested Development.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, yeah. It has a poetic flair to it.
Never Chord.
Yeah.
Quoth Marquez.
Never Chord. Or quoth the brushwood, Never Chord.
Yeah.
It has a very you could do an illustration to it. Put it that way. Yeah, Trust Us, We're Apple, I think, is fair.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
Yeah. Joni, I've got all your data. I'm giving that a vote just because.
Johnny, I've got all your data. Nice, Toby Pinder.
Yeah.
Apple's Mo Scratch Resistant. You are pun master today.
I'm going to call him Toby Punder.
Toby Punder.
From now until the end of time. All your data belong to Apple.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, BioCow, you made me laugh, and you'll see me snicker if you watch the video. I don't think it came over the mic, but BioCow sent me a yo right after I speculated about the if to yo connection. It was perfect timing.
Nice.
And the phone was in my pocket, so I just felt the vibration and a distant yow.
Ooh, the premiere of Guardians of the Galaxy is tonight in front of the El Capitan. That's one where I might just go stand there just because it's a couple blocks from up the house.
Oh, yeah, just take a walk.
Just go take a walk with the dog. And I'm so excited for that movie.
I am, too. I'm looking forward to that. And it's nice to not feel any movie draft stress about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be deciding.
Yeah,
but I hope it does well.
I do, too. I really want it to do well because... I'm getting bored of superhero. It's a terrible thing to say, and I don't mean this about the comics universe, but I'm getting bored with superheroes on Earth movies. Mm-hmm. Because it's turning into all the same story, even though it's a good, enjoyable story.
That's the problem with the Silver Age, right? That's what brought us to alternate universes, and it's the actual standard comic book history of storytelling is playing out in the movies now.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see a broader. I love Thor's universe. I might actually go read those comic books now.
Are you going to read the new ones?
Well, maybe not right away. The one with the girl.
Yeah, that looks interesting.
It does look interesting, but I feel like if I'm going to read Thor, I better read Thor and then.
Yeah, you could start
way.
Silver Age Thor.
Yeah.
And then you can get into She-Thor and the...
She-Thor, that does not sound right.
You get the backing for the new Thor, who's Thor, not She-Thor.
Yeah, just Thor. All the Thorminists are going to come after you. What else? There were other things.
Exported. Done.
So excited.
Eileen's been traipsing all over New York City this weekend.
Oh, fun.
And now she's underwater because she actually had to go back to work. In New York City, the whole reason she was there. She kept texting me and sending me pictures all weekend long. I was like, I can tell you're actually not working because you're doing things and talking and stuff. And then I'm like, yeah, tomorrow. And then tomorrow I won't hear from you again until Friday, will I? Just like,
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I had such a good vacation. It was fun. It was actually fun to keep hanging out with the show.
Yeah.
During the vacation. It was like I took the show with me on vacation.
That's what I want. I want the show to be as portable as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I want technology to get to the point that it makes it easy to do that too.
Yeah.
And it's getting better all the time. But just being able to like sit down at Nerdtacular and do the show like I did, over in a corner. It's not perfect. It's not ideal yet, but I love that. I love where it's like
the show is your life. And
I'm
going to
get all beatnik like here if I'm not careful, but it's very much like when I was an annoying undergrad reading Jack Kerouac and Hunter Thompson, the ideal was just have the story come through. Mm-hmm. And technology is getting closer and closer to letting you do that.
Excited about that.
I don't want to be too pretentious about it though. It's just the story, man.
Now,
it actually rained here while you were gone. Can you believe that?
What?
Briefly.
I don't believe
like 10
it.
minutes.
I was so excited about all the rain. We were swimming in the lake, and it started raining, and I was like, wow, water's everywhere. It was awesome.
You're like a Fremen.
Yeah. And then it started lightninging, and we got out. Yeah, I'm glad at least Tammy is doing entirely respectably, and it's not even for the movie draft. I just really want everything Melissa McCarthy does to succeed all the time. So that makes
she's
me
great.
Happy. We used to see her when she was a groundling.
Oh, yeah?
Because we used to go to the Groundling because Matt did a lot of classes there. And actually, the Groundlings is what really launched his entire 10-year, 11-year career here. Yeah, she's so quick live. Oh my God, it's amazing. So hopefully we'll get to see that someday.
Justin Morneau just went on the 15-day DL. Sorry, Rockies fans.
Sorry. I'll never be able to hear his name and think he's not a Twin.
Well, yeah, did you see the All-Star game? They were just like cheering the crap out of him.
Yeah, they miss him.
I'm not saying that I want the reserve clause back, but I wish there was a fair and free way for players to stay with their teams.
Yeah.
Like Derek Jeter not to be the exception, essentially.
Well, the Red Sox, for all their Moneyball BSing about how they'll trade players, like there are certain players they know they can't get rid of, like they know they have to keep.
Mm-hmm.
And they've, in the recent years, I think it was like anybody that played the 2004 World Series that was still walking and breathing was allowed to finish out their career, unless they were just being like ridiculous. But they've had Jason Varitek, Tim Wakefield, and hopefully David Ortiz all likely to finish to do the two of them, Wakefield and Varitek, their entire careers with the Red Sox. Like, except
Wait,
for
Wakefield was.
Oh, sorry, the Pirates. He was a Pirate, but the
Okay,
vast majority of their career.
I thought
Varitek was in the Mariners minor league organization.
Okay, that's all.
But he's one of the ones that did his whole career. So the vast majority of Wakefield and the vast majority of Ortiz have been with the Red Sox.
I saw Ortiz play as a Twin at the Oakland Coliseum, actually. So I still think of him partly that way because he killed the A's in that series.
And in some other important series as well.
Well, as a Red Sox, he did too. But I don't count those because those are memories I wipe from my mind.
I know.
My wife was a Red Sox sympathizer until several games in playoffs with the Red Sox, and now is don't want to say she's a hater, but
Right.
her sort of schoolgirl crush on the Red Sox went away.
Yeah, you got to really be in it for the.
Like, it was never. I mean, she was never going to change her team. Her team
Yeah.
was the A's, but it was one of those like, oh, like, you know, those boys are kind of fun, and
Yeah.
then after a few defeats, she's like, I don't like them at all.
I have a reciprocal agreement with the A's, which is they are my second favorite American League team, without question.
Her
Also-
second favorite is the Mariners, which is weird because they're even in the same division. But
Oh, that's tough.
yeah,
Oh my God, Sub Guns just sent me a picture, and I laughed so hard. Sent it, put it in the chat room.
Fur. That's fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Rob, there is not a list for possible future guests, but you can just email feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Yep.
We're always on the lookout. Guests are problematic because, I mean, taking guest suggestions is problematic. Most of the folks that people end up suggesting to us, we definitely already know about and are trying to get. And certain guests just aren't available. Certain guests are available, but we haven't figured out timing yet, stuff like that. But happy to hear about them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
It's less like stories for the show or emails where we have full control over whether it goes in. The guests, they have minds of their own.
And schedules.
They have free will.
It's a
Not-
problem.
Yeah, it's problematic. Who granted them that?
Whatever.
Whatever. All right, I am out of the post. Good to be
Okay.
back in
Mode.
in the rhythm.
I know, where the show notes aren't 3 days late. Sorry.
It's July, people.
I know. It's just one of those, like, you know, when at the end of the vacation where things get really desperate and you're like, I don't know, and you're like in 17 different places at once.
Uh-huh.
No show notes. No show notes.
Yep,
All right.
I hear you. All right, that is it for the video. Goodbye, video,
Goodbye, video.
and have a pleasant day. Go subscribe to MKBHD.
Mm-hmm.